Big Stepper, Underground Methods. Welcome back. I know what you're thinking. Clayton, I don't think you've appeared on camera on your own channel in like 2 years. And it looks like you've gotten bigger since then. What's that, like 20 pounds? And the answer is absolutely not. How dare you? I gained 50 pounds since the last time I did a Q&A, and then I lost 30 of those pounds. We're still working on the other 20. But in the meantime, it is time for another edition of Q's and A's. With me, Cant Duncan Robinson, aka The Wholesome Honky, aka Thick Stanley, aka Clayton Crowley, aka me. This is actually the second time I've recorded this Q&A because I sat down and tried to do it the first time and realized very quickly that not doing any prep work and not looking at any of the questions beforehand kind of turned into a mess. The dirty little secret about me is I can't speak extemporaneously that well at all. Maybe it's because I'm used to having a script for when I talk in front of a camera or a microphone, or that I'm stupid, but for whatever reason, I can't just riff. I can't just like go. A couple weeks ago, I lit the bat signal for questions on YouTube, Twitter, and Patreon. Today, we're gonna go through them. The ever-talented Ben wants to know, if you were offered $1 million to beat any NBA player in a fight to the death, who are you picking and why? My answer is going to shock you. It's Wilt Chamberlain, and that's because he's already dead. Harry wants to know, would Derrick Rose have been the greatest player of all time if his knees weren't garbage? And since the answer is yes, and he would have gotten Kirk Hinrich 8 rings, would Kirk Hinrich be a top 3 player of all time? Would Derrick Rose have been the greatest player of all time? If I say no, I'm pretty sure you're gonna assault me, so I'm gonna say yes. Does 8 rings though mean Kirk Hinrich is a top 3 player of all time? Yeah, it does. Zach wants to know my top 5 NBA jerseys of all time. Zach, I spent a lot of time trying to answer my favorite NBA jersey the first time I ever did a Q&A, and I came out with the Philadelphia 76ers Allen Iverson jersey with the star on it. That was kick-ass. Asking me to make any other judgments about jerseys is far beyond my abilities of comprehension, so I appreciate the question. I think you're overestimating how much my poor little sad brain can handle. Chev asks what? What? Evan wants to know if I have a favorite John Boyce video. It's a big question. It's a tough question. If I had to pick one, I really liked the Bob documentary and the part of it about Bob Beamon and his record-breaking long jump. And I thought John, like the way John put the zooms in on the tape measure and it just goes and goes and goes. And the music was picked perfectly. It was perfectly paced. And you just keep thinking, okay, it's got to stop at this number. It's got to stop at this number. And then it just keeps going. It's like, it's really emotional. It's one of my favorite things that anybody's ever made ever. I really, really like that. I like that whole video, but I like that part especially. And for that, I would say probably the Bob documentary. Dark Jones wants to know how I'm doing. My instinct is to say I'm doing pretty good, because I am. But I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I had to turn off the AC so that there's not a bunch of weird noise. I've had to dick with this camera and this microphone. This setup, I don't know if you could guess, this isn't my forte, so this setup is not ideal. I'm a little uncomfy right now, but hey, it's the stuff I'm willing to do for you. Eddie wants to know if I think that Steve Nash's MVPs are fraud MVPs, or are they deserved? Why do you think Nash gets so much hate for those MVPs? It's a good question. I really like it. I think that he gets hate for it because he was the first player when they, got rid of hand checking and they changed a lot of the rules about defense. He was the player that probably benefited the most, or at least the most publicly, from those rule changes. He was able to get his shot off better. He was able to get into the lane better. He was able to, the passing lanes got more open. So he benefited from all of those. It was almost like those rules, they weren't, but it's almost like they were tailored to his skill set. And so the fact that he had such tremendous success in the wake of those rule changes led a lot of guys at that time to go, oh, well, he's just good because he couldn't handle this physical brand of defense. Maybe that's true, but maybe it's not. But that's why he was getting a lot of hate for it. But do I think that they were fraudulent or were they deserved? I think that in the list of players that have gotten back-to-back MVPs, he's kind of the dark horse. He's definitely the odd man out on that list. But were they deserved? Yes. And I actually think that those MVPs and what he did and kind of like the the machine that he set in motion with the way that he played, with the rule changes and taking advantage of it, has led to the way the game is played today. He would have been a tremendous player today. He like the 7 seconds or less Suns were the blueprint, and I know that all the blueprint, well actually they did it first, but the 7 seconds or less Suns were the blueprint for what eventually the Spurs became and the Warriors became. And that's what the rules want basketball to be. So I think that in a way they were totally deserved, and they actually look better now than they probably did back then because he was playing a style of basketball that the rest of the league would eventually aspire to. Vin wants to know what is objectively the more entertaining game, Shaq Fu or Michael Jordan Chaos in the Windy City? Answer, easy, Shaq Fu. Pop culture, relevance, can't be touched. Incredible outfits, love Shaq Fu. Trey wants to know, what are your feelings regarding the Knicks right now? I know that you hate them as an organization, but I'm just curious to just hear what you think of their new pickups. I don't hate the Knicks. I hate James Dolan. And I don't even necessarily hate James Dolan. I think he's a disaster of an owner, somewhat of a disaster of a human being, and I think it's really fun to make fun of him. And him being sad makes me happy. But I don't hate the Knicks. I'm very happy that they're good. I'm very happy that their fans are excited. And I really, really like their team. I think it's awesome. I think they represent the Knicks very well. I think that they have a moxie and a spirit that like kind of and a like brotherhood that resembles the Knicks of the 1970s with Red Holzman and Willis Reed and Walt Frazier and Bill Bradley and those guys. I think that they embody those things in a way that makes them really easy to root for. And the fact that they got Mikal Bridges, like, I love the Knicks. I actually am rooting very hard for their success as a, you know, basically impartial observer. I really like them. I think they're awesome. I had somebody, I think I said something about the fact that it's fun to see the Knicks be good. I hate the fact that it means James Dolan's happy. And somebody on Twitter said it's like a kid with bad parents where, yeah, you're excited to see the kid succeed, and then the parents get to kind of be a part of that, but you're like, I'm just more happy for the kid. That's how I feel about the Knicks. Couldn't have said it better myself. Harold of the Straits wants to know, how do I, and if I want to be prescriptive, how should NBA fans handle contextualizing the new relative to the old? As an example, how do we combat both recency bias and nostalgia bias when evaluating the qualities of players like Jokic? He's transcendent, but how much so? How do I handle contextualizing it? I suffered way more from nostalgia bias. Like the idea of like putting a player ahead of a guy like Jerry West or Oscar Robertson or John Havlicek or like, you know, guys from the 60s and the 70s and into the 80s. That's where I'm just like, you can't put a guy ahead of that. But sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to. I'm usually a little late to that contextualization. Like, I probably have like a 3-year lag before I actually can start putting things into a good context with the rest of history. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck. I definitely don't have anything prescriptive. I don't have anything to tell people how to watch or what to do. It's the fun part though. It is the fun part, is getting into an argument about it. Get into fights, and if you see somebody being wrong, get into a fight with them. Ben Saylor asked if I have a personal favorite video that I've made, one that made me really proud. It's a good question. It's a very nice question. A video that I'm really proud of. I have a certain amount of pride in all the videos. I felt good. I never feel good uploading the video. It's always like, is this even good? But then looking back, I'm like, you know what? I really worked hard on that. I tried, I did my homework, I put a lot of effort into that video. I'm thankful to say that applies to almost all of my videos. So I'm fairly proud of all of them. But the one that I'm the proudest of, I really felt proud about the 1972 Lakers video. I loved their story, I loved the research. I feel proud about the way that I presented that story and kind of the stakes and the heartbreaks they went through and the fact that the way that they won and all that other stuff. I definitely have a certain amount of pride for that. Another one that I'm proud of is the Pete Maravich video. That was a video where it was like, I don't know, things were kind of weird personally. I don't know, I put out a couple videos that didn't get the responses I thought that they ought to, or the one that I wanted. I shouldn't say ought to, but that I wanted. And I just decided to I had a lot of thoughts of like, oh, maybe this isn't gonna work, maybe I should just, and I just doubled down on it, you know? And I just decided I'm gonna have fun with it. I'm gonna double down, I'm just gonna get back into it, go back to the well and just make it like, what am I actually trying to do? Am I trying to make videos because I want people to watch them, or am I trying to make videos that I would wanna watch? And that's what I did. I doubled down on that Pete Maravich video, and since then, it's been like a total change in perspective of the way that I do this, of my relationship with this job and making these videos. That feels in my head like a turning point for like my professional life in a weird way. And I'm very proud of that video. I like it of itself a lot, and I like what it kind of represents in my lore. Custard Bath, great name, wants to know: start, bench, cut, Hedo Turkoglu, Rasha Nesterovic, Anthony Bennett. Start, Hedo Turkoglu. Love Hedo Turkoglu. Bench cut between Rasha and Anthony Bennett. I'm gonna cut Anthony Bennett, and I'll let you in on a little something I've been doing with my brother. The bet was, will Bronny James average better per game stats than Anthony Bennett in, 2 or more of points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, games played, or maybe games started and minutes played. Whatever. I said Bronny's not going to do it. Anthony Bennett is going to clear him. My brother disagreed. $100. I am watching every second of Bronny James this year. Vikram wants to know where I rank Steph Curry all time and if I think he has a claim as the GOAT in a making the case type of situation. I rank him probably, I think he's top 10. I probably think he's 10 if I were to do a list. Do I think he has a case as the GOAT? I mean, somebody could. That's the thing. For me, no. But that's okay. Just because you don't get now we're hitting on a nerve for whatever reason that I'm realizing I have now. Just because a player isn't the GOAT doesn't mean that they're not awesome, or that they're not badass, or that they aren't I'm getting carried away. I'm getting flustered because now I'm realizing that it actually upsets me, the idea that because Steph Curry isn't the GOAT, or I don't think I would make the case for him as the GOAT, that somehow diminishes how good and awesome and entertaining and important he is. So I'm gonna move on before I pop a blood vessel. On Patreon, Justin Bryan wants to know about Hakeem Olajuwon. He wants to know my thoughts, forgotten back-to-back title run. He wants me to make a video for it. And I'll tell you this, Justin, I would love to tell you about it right now, but I'll do you one better. I'll make a video about Hakeem and those Rockets. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but I'm gonna make a video. Donald wants to know what my thoughts are on dynasties. Have we seen the last of the true dominant teams over long periods of time? Technical difficulties, had to reframe the camera. Probably not the same framing, don't really care. But I was gonna say that the idea that dynasties are dead or dying is silly. Dynasties are rare. There's usually once every generation of players, one every 10 to 15 years. They're going to be put together in a different way. They're going to take advantage of different rules or advantages, but that's what's going to make them good, is that they take it within the confines of the NBA. There's going to be teams that are better. There's going to be players that are better than others. There are going to be teams that do a better job of assembling them, and those teams are going to succeed more than their peers. And that is what makes a dynasty. I don't know how you define a dynasty, but that's a dynasty. The team that does better than everybody else for a long period of time. It's going to happen, whatever it is. It's just, it is something that's going to happen organically within whatever rule structure you give it. Andre wants to know, taking into account teamwork, entertainment, fitness level, etc., what would I consider to be the best sport? I mean, I don't have enough contextual knowledge to go through all sports because, I don't know, maybe water polo is the best sport and I just don't know anything about it. Based off of the stuff that I know, gonna go with the old round ball, baby. Kyle wants to know, for a pickup game of one-on-one, who would be the two most dominant players to watch? Wilt and Shaq is the first one that comes. I mean, you can pick any of the two great centers. Wilt, Shaq, Russell, Kareem, Hakeem, Jokic, pick any of those guys and that would be awesome. Jordan and Kobe, that would be cool. LeBron and Bird or any other great forward, And Kyle wants to know if I would do a Mikan video. I am not against a Mikan video. I would have to do a lot of work to make it at all entertaining. But that also does kind of appeal to me. I kind of like the idea of doing a George Mikan video. So would I? Maybe. Will I? Not for a while. Now we're going over to the YouTube. Threes wants to know, I've talked about different eras of basketball. Would I say that there are different eras of basketball analysis? It's a very good question. I would say definitely. I mean, as statistics and analytics become more and more prevalent in basketball discourse and team construction and play style and all that other stuff, that's just a linear increase where we're just favoring the math more and more and more. So as far as that kind of analytics, just like analysis, like you can do, there's so many stats. There's too many stats. As far as analysis of like, I don't know, the way basketball is covered, definitely there are errors. Now, a lot of stuff is analytics and short form social media stuff or digital stuff. There's long form digital stuff. Ben Taylor does Thinking Basketball, and that is awesome. That is like digestible, great analytics based analysis of the sport. And then you get dum-dums like me that just kind of do the video essay, narrative, history, blah 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 blah. But what we've lost is something that I love, which is written analysis ability. I mean, that's definitely an era that has changed. Is it used to be that a writer like David Halberstam or Frank Defford could just go to these players, spend time with them, and they would be super candid and be able to write a story about not only what this team did, but the players and their dynamic and their personalities and all that kind of stuff. Where now, we are getting more candid athletes, but they are using their own platform as resources and putting it out themselves, so it's not mediated by a writer or an outlet or something like that. And that's cool. That's just where we are. I still like the writer or the journalist who their job is to take it and put it into a larger historic context, or even just, you know, the things that they see that, you know, the individuals might be blind to themselves. I like that stuff. I just enjoy it. That's my favorite part about it, is doing the research and reading the books and reading the interviews and reading the profiles and stuff like that. So definitely there are different eras. I don't know, it's a slow change between them, but the one we're in now, pretty all right. There were a lot of comments brown-nosing and trying to flatter me, and I just want you to know I saw them, I do appreciate them, but I'm not going to answer them. 40 Nights wants to know one question I think every YouTuber should be asked. What is the most fun you've ever had making a YouTube video? That is a really good question. That's a very sweet question, so thank you. The most fun I've ever had? I would honestly say Robert Horry, the Robert Horry video. Not only because he is so interesting, but because the process was so interesting of like, I mean, I knew going into it quite a bit about Robert Horry. But then going through and seeing, okay, I knew his greatest hits, but then there are these little ones, the Sonics, his rookie year, the Knicks series where he just like went off, had to restart the camera. But Robert Horry was the most fun I've had because I got to do silly photoshops, I got to do fun After Effects, the script was silly, I got to do funny noises. Like, it was a just fun video to make. That was kind of the idea behind it, was like, all right, what if I don't have to do such a dramatic kind of retelling of history and framing it in this big crescendo of a thing? It's just fun, and that's what it was, and it ended up being a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, beginning to end, and I got to talk to Robert Horry and verify that while he was playing, he preferred to be called Rob and not Bob. Get out of my comments! If I could go back and change one moment in NBA history, having then to deal with the fallout, what would I choose? KD going to the Warriors, Horry shove on Nash. I mean, my first instinct is the KD to the Warriors thing, just because I felt like the league had a bunch of momentum and it had a lot of fun. Like the LeBron-Warriors rivalry was weirdly going to like be level and it was going to be actually competitive. Him going to the Warriors just made it no fun. I don't know if I would want Kevin Durant to not go to the Warriors. What I wish I would have happened is that they smoothed the cap spike so that there isn't the opportunity for the 73-9 Warriors to add Kevin Durant. For whatever reason, that feels better to me than taking away the agency of Kevin Durant going to the Warriors. So I'm gonna use that. That's my answer. Sort of in the style of the Horry and Ginobili videos, what's a niche or vibes player that I would want to make a video on next? I mean, I don't know if I can make a video about them, but some of my favorite vibes players, I'll give you two right off the bat. From my days as a Clippers fan, DeAndre Jordan, loved DeAndre Jordan, and Mario Chalmers. Naj Peterson wants to know my content creating and filming background. I don't have much. When I was in college, I took a half semester course on Adobe Premiere because Clemson, which is where I went to school, had a deal with Adobe where everybody got the Adobe suite while they were in college. And I wanted to learn how to use it. So that Adobe Premiere and Photoshop I would use because I just thought it would be a fun thing to learn how to do. I took that class, but then what actually helped me get good at it was I would just like make videos of my friends or Photoshop my friends into silly situations or something like that. And take a video of a night of us hanging out and then edit it into a stupid and wildly inappropriate video. And that is what helped me get better. I would have an idea of like, oh, this would be funny, but I'd have to do this. Okay, well, let me learn how to do this. So it was a really organic way to learn how to do different techniques and get experience because I wanted to do it because I thought it could make my friends laugh. So that was my experience with Adobe stuff. While I was in college, I worked for the newspaper as a sports writer, and then I think my last semester I was the sports editor, which we won the second of the 2 national championships that Clemson football won while I was in college. So I had some experience in writing. That was the thing that I was decent at, I thought, in a professional sense, was I was a decent writer. Got out of college and then worked at the local ESPN Sports affiliate talking about local sports, which was college football, college sports, not a lot of professional sports, mostly just Clemson, University of South Carolina, and College of Charleston. And that was great because it got me comfortable talking in front of a microphone. And then, simple version, during the pandemic, I just started making videos and it just kind of ended up working. So did I have any experience doing this kind of stuff? Kind of, I guess. Any professional experience? Barely. I just started throwing stuff together. And the first video I put out got 7 views in a week. And I was like, okay, that's where the bar is. Let's see if we can go up from there. And then just kept plugging away at it. I would have you know that the entire time that I was in college, the entire time I spent looking for a job after college, I was one of those guys that didn't have internships, didn't have great grades, didn't have a major that looked really good for the kind of thing that I was doing, which is what ultimately led me to start doing YouTube stuff, because I could just do it myself. So if you're out there and you're like, oh, I don't have a whole lot of like these professional experiences, these things to put on a resume, that's what the internet's for, man. Just start doing it. So if me talking about my professional experience, it sounds like I had a lot, it sure didn't feel like it, I encourage you to just do it. It might not be great, but that's okay, because right now is as bad as you're ever gonna be at it. You're gonna make the first thing, and then you're gonna be better making the second thing, and then better the third thing, and you just keep getting better. Oliver Hong wants to know favorite basketball media, documentaries, player profiles, YouTube videos. Documentaries, Last Dance, loved it. Didn't love all of it. Thought Jerry Krause got kind of the raw end of that. But whatever, I get it. No big deal. I thought it was outstanding otherwise. The end of episode 7 where Jordan starts tearing up and choking up and asks for a break after talking about the fact that he's perceived as an asshole and the things that he did might not have been popular. That's like up there with the Bob Beamon stuff. That is unbelievable. The music, what he's saying, the way his teammates are talking about him, and then this human moment of the ultimate competitor having an emotional moment, reflecting on the fact that, like, this is the way I am. Love it. Player profiles, I'm gonna start getting flustered again, but Sports Illustrated, the SI Vault, has changed. You can't search stuff anymore. It has, whatever they did to it, they fucked it. And it is the biggest disservice to the sports consuming public, people that care about sports and care about sports being covered in a certain way. Not being able to easily find those articles is criminal. I have no idea what or why that happened. But I loved, when I go do this research, if I go find a Frank Deford profile about a team or a player, or a Jack McCallum profile, story, or whatever, I get a half chub. I'm just like, oh, I'm saving that for later. That's gonna be my Monday night. You know, like, that's my favorite shit in the world. And the fact that that gets harder and harder to find because of Sports Illustrated, and they shouldn't have fucked with the vault, and I'm pissed that they fucked with the vault. And then for YouTube videos, I tend not to watch a lot of basketball YouTube videos, just because I don't want to kind of like have it cross-pollinate my ideas or my brain, or get discouraged by like, oh, they already made a video about that, I guess I can't touch that. So I tend not to watch a whole lot of that stuff. The ones that I do watch are, like I said, Ben Taylor and Thinking Basketball is phenomenal. Secret Base does a whole bunch of good stuff. Like, there are great content creators out there, but I tend to not watch a whole lot of them so that I don't get wires crossed or get discouraged. Smooth Snake 23 wants to know if I think Scottie Pippen is underrated. Fuck yes, I do, and one of the biggest reasons he's underrated is because of Skip Bayless. Fuck you, Skip Bayless. Me and my homies fucking hate Skip Bayless. Duran Man X asks, why do you think basketball fans have trouble appreciating earlier decades like the 60s when boxing and baseball fans can appreciate eras since the 30s? That's the immortal question, man. That's a great question. I think because basketball's demographic tends to be younger and more focused on social media and digital content, which I can't complain about. There's something to baseball and boxing. Baseball is so old and it has a national foothold as the national pastime in America. But like part of the sport's identity is its history, is the Babe Ruth, the Lou Gehrig, the Murderer's Row, shit like that. Same thing with boxing. I don't know shit about boxing, but I know about the heavyweight champion of the world. I know the history of the heavyweights and how important that is to the sport of boxing. I'm 50-50 on whether I think the league has done a good job of honoring its old players. The 75th anniversary stuff was awesome. I loved all that. I think the NFL did it better with the NFL 100 stuff. I don't know why the NBA couldn't do shit like that, and maybe they will for the NBA. I don't know. I think the biggest reason is because the demographic is young, so they don't necessarily have the interest in going and watching Willis Reed come out of the tunnel in the Game 7 of the 1970 finals. If I really knew the answer, I would be able to diagnose it and go about it, and I would be much more popular. Do I believe Muggsy Bogues would have been better if he was taller? No. If I had a time machine and the ability to watch any NBA game live, where would I go? 1976 Finals, Game 5, in the Boston Garden, triple overtime, the end of the second overtime. That whole game is like the best basketball game of all time. That would have been an incredible game to be there for because you get 3 overtimes in a championship game, a Game 5 that's going to kind of like help swing the series. The fans rush the court, the referee gets in a fight, and then Garherd hits the turnaround shot at the buzzer for a third overtime. So that would have been an incredible game to be there for. 2016, Game 7, that is probably the game in my lifetime that I would have loved to be there for. And then to be in the building for Jordan's last shot, Game 6, 1998. Would have been pretty cool. If every center of all time was in a draft tomorrow, who would I pick to start my franchise? I'd pick, it's between Russell and Kareem. Back in the day, I would have picked Russell. Now, I'd probably pick Kareem. The durability, the peak, the skill set. Nobody could stop the skyhook then. I don't think a lot of people could stop the skyhook now. Plus, he could shoot better than I think people thought. And he played for forever, back from the 70s and 80s. You give him modern technology and modern medicine now, that dude plays for like 35 years. So I'm going Kareem as my starting franchise center. Who was my favorite NBA player to watch when I was in high school? Blake Griffin. Middle of Lob City. Dude was doing it all. Really loved that team. Really loved Blake Griffin. And DeAndre Jordan. 1 Meter Skeeter wants to know, would I have Allen Iverson and the 76ers defeating the Lakers in 01 if it removed Dirk's 2011 ring? Now this is the all-time cosmic trade. This is an incredible question. And the answer is no. And that hurts a lot because the idea of Allen Iverson and the 01 Sixers having a ring over those Lakers gets me bricked up. But that means that Dirk loses that championship. And here's my reason. Everybody loves Allen Iverson. Everybody is in awe of the things that he was able to do, especially that 01 run and that MVP season. Like, Allen Iverson is the man, pretty universally acknowledged. Dirk wasn't that. Dirk was a choke artist. He was the guy who couldn't get it done. And then he had the ultimate kick-ass run in 2011 that totally flipped the narrative on him and made him a folk hero. And so if we take that championship and give it to Iverson, Iverson just gets higher and Dirk probably stays as like a loser, as like a can't get it done guy. And I don't like thinking about that. I like having Dirk as a badass and as like a wrecking crew and a one-man army. So I'm gonna keep it the way we have. And I can't believe I would ever do anything to deny Allen Iverson a championship. But here I am. Ty has a great question. Do I know what I'm getting into with each video, or does my opinion of the team and player I'm talking about change? It's a great question. To be entirely frank, there's not a lot about a lot of players that I don't know about. I try not to have a strong outline of I have an idea of the way their career went. I try not to have a strong idea of what the video is going to end up being. So I guess that's the two different things. There aren't a lot of players that I don't already know something about. But does the video that I think I'm going to make change as I learn more stuff? Definitely. Would I rather have unlimited ball but no court, or unlimited court but no court? Easy answer, you take the ball, okay? You take the bacon. It's not that hard. What is my basketball playing experience? None. New making the case for LeBron when he retires. Yes. AXYR4394 says balls. Balls. Tom wants to know, we all know that Shaq can shoot threes, but what if he could dunk as well? It would be game over. Death Killer Spiral. Why no Kobe Bryant 2? That made me laugh. Knock it off. Not a question, but show hairline. All right, I knew this was happening. I got my haircut yesterday. I don't know what I'm doing with it, but I mean, you know, I'm 27. It's what happens when it's all right. It's still there. We're good. Not worried about it yet. I'm kind of pissed off about it because it's definitely, you know, the corners are starting to, you know, lose a little bit of their luster, but we're hanging in there. I'm doing what I can. I'm taking care of it using a product from whatever company decides they want to give me money, but it is what it is, you know? Life's too short. I'm gonna worry about that. Who are you and why are you on my feed? Who am I? I don't know if I know the answer to that question. Can you watch your language, man? No! Last question, and I'm doing this last on purpose because Lord knows I'm gonna ramble, and after this, I just wanna be done. But Music and Magic 909 asks, would I be willing to walk us through the process? Not like first I script, then I record, then I edit, then I render. More talking about, you know, the balance of video creation the rest of your life, creativity involved, a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm probably gonna get on a bit of a soapbox, and I thought about not answering this at all because talking about myself and this job, I don't know, feeling like I'm standing on a soapbox giving advice and stuff, I don't totally feel comfortable with. But at the same time, if it is helpful to somebody, then I would want to be able to give that advice and to be able to say something that might be helpful and help, like, if it would help somebody start doing what they love and start making content, or even just applying it to some other area of their life that they love. If I could say anything to help foster that, then I want to do that. So that's what I'm gonna do. And anything that I say, I don't mean to make it sound like it's a incredibly hard or stressful job. It's not. It's a job. It's one of those things where it's like, it is stressful. There are hard parts of it. It is not a hard job by almost any means. So video creation and balancing video creation and the rest of your life. That was really hard for me at the beginning. And by the beginning, I mean for probably like 2 years, because there is no boss. There's nobody to tell me to stop. There's no set work hours. It's just however much you can get done. And so for the first, I don't know, year, it was just fueled by pure passion and finally having an outlet for a lot of these thoughts and opinions and takes and kind of like seeing the numbers go up and all that other stuff. It was just nonstop grinding, plus it was the pandemic, but it was just a bunch of grinding. It totally dominated my life. And I have no regrets about that. But then when that inspiration and that passion wears off and you kind of experience burnout for the first time, then it gets really tough. Because again, there's nobody to tell you to stop, to take a break. So you have to convince yourself to take a break, which was really hard. And it was weird because, right, this is the thing that I've always wanted to do. It was literally like, I don't know what else I would do with myself if I can't talk about basketball in some way. It was like, oh shit, I don't want to do this right now. I don't want to make this video. I don't want to do that research. I don't want to edit that video. Ugh. Does that mean that I was wrong and that this is stupid and I should not do this? And the answer is no. That's just a part of it. And that first exposure to burnout was tough. But then, in my experience, it was take a little bit of time away from it, focus on something else, whether that's creative or not, and then kind of weaning myself back into it. Okay, let me watch this old game, not because I'm going to use it in a video, but because that's just what I want to do. And taking the professional responsibility away from it and just watching it because I wanted to watch it, or reading it because I wanted to read it, then I felt the same, like, ooh, I like that. Ooh, that's awesome. Ooh, that gets me excited. And then it just kind of like ramping that up into, okay, well then what if I wanted to, well, what would be an interesting video to make? oh, okay, well, let me watch a little bit of this. Yeah, that would be cool. What if I talk about this in the video? And then just kind of ramping back up into making videos and stuff like that. So then you kind of get back on top of the wave and everything's good. Then experiencing burnout again, for me, it's usually at the end of a series or at the end of like a stretch of like 5 or 6 videos. Experiencing burnout for the second time after the teams videos was like, holy shit. I thought I cured this. I thought this was over. In my head, burnout was just something that just like, oh, I figured it out. I got over that burnout. I'm smooth sailing for the rest of forever. And that's not true. It was one of those things where then again, I had to get back on top of the wave, which is why I'm really proud of the Pistol Pete video, because that was especially draining when that period of burnout and that kind of like mixture of just a whole lot of stuff going on. Because I got back on top of that wave again. And now having gone through it for enough cycles of inspiration and drive to create something and then making it and then having a little bit of burnout, now it doesn't feel as acute. It's more like, and I don't rely necessarily on passion and inspiration. It's a job. It's a job that I love, but it's a job. Every day it's just making a list and getting some stuff done and not beating myself up for not doing more. And also, it's not paralyzing because I have to get everything done at once, if that makes any sense. So that's one thing. That's, you know, burnout and the cycle of like, okay, I'm in charge of it, I dictate how much, and I need to learn how to stop. The other thing that's hard is when you have a personal life or things going on in your personal life and fitting it back into it, fitting the professional responsibility back into your life. Because for a while there were a couple years where it's just like, oh, that's a little dicey. And so the professional stuff suffered because of it. And then getting back on top of it, the Pistol Pete stuff, is where it felt like, okay, I have rediscovered this thing that I love. I actually, hold on, a couple months ago, I read the comic book Watchmen for the first time. Not a big comic book guy, I just wanted to give him a shot, and it was really good. This was after I had kind of gotten back into the groove of things. I felt really inspired by it, and I felt very proud of the fact that I was back on top of it, and I had kind of found this new resolution to keep going and a new approach to it that felt much more sustainable and much more healthy. And there's a section in there, you can probably find it online, but it's in The Watchmen, it's Blood from the Shoulder of Pallas. I hope I'm saying that right. But it talks about the fact that you devote a whole bunch of your time and energy to something, and eventually through the process of making it your job, you squeeze some of the enjoyment, some of the passion, some of the intangible enjoyment that you got out of it that drew you to it in the first place. And that fiction, and that little section, that little story, that little fictional What Dum Dum is trying to say here is that in the comic book The Watchmen, there are little excerpts at the end of each chapter that help build out the world and the characters. At the end of one chapter, one character, an ornithologist, which is someone who studies birds, talks about how by turning his passion into a job, he slowly lost the sense of wonder that drew him to it in the first place. Someplace along the line, my passion got lost, unwittingly refined from the original gleaming ore down to a banal and lusterless filing system. This gradual tarnishing had gone unnoticed, unchecked, finally calcifying into unthinking habit. Eventually though, the character is startled by the shriek of an owl and has his curiosity and appreciation renewed. I hurled myself into the study of my subjects with renewed fervor, able to see the dry facts and arid descriptions in the same transforming magical light that had favored them when I was younger. Yes, I do recognize how self-important this all is for a basketball YouTube essayist to say about themselves. And yes, I am sufficiently embarrassed about it. And so that happened for me, where it felt like I have rediscovered my love for this thing, and knowing at some point it is going to dwindle, and just having the reassurance that I will find it again. So I have to create strictly for the outcome of YouTube success. I mean, yes, in a way, and in a way that isn't upsetting to me. I have found that it is a good approach to approach it as a job. It is something to be done. It's something that I love and something that I really enjoy, but it is work. I can take away the need for it to be purely artistically or creatively fulfilling so that it doesn't become paralyzing. That feeling of like everything has to be a magnum opus can be paralyzing, at least for me. And so taking that away, still getting creative satisfaction out of it, still getting certainly some kind of validation for making something that I'm very proud of, and still taking a bunch of time to do it, but lowering the bar a little bit for what it needs to be has been super helpful as far as getting the work done, the quality of the work that gets done, and just kind of my day-to-day approach to it and the rest of my life. Does the inspiration run out, but then you're in too deep and feel obligated to finish what you started? Again, that's where it's like I feel like I've been able to find a good balance of the inspiration is what gets me going, and then the consistency and just treating it like a job is what keeps me going through. I'm not relying so much on the passion and inspiration to carry me across the finish line. Are there videos on the cutting room floor or on the shelf until further notice because the creative juices have stopped flowing? There's definitely ideas and videos that are on the shelf, not so much on the cutting room floor as in like I've gotten into them and then stopped doing them because I just lost the passion for them. There's definitely things that I'm like, I want to be like a George Mikan video. There's definitely ideas and videos that I want to be in a certain place and give a certain amount of time to in order to do them right or do them justice in a way, if that makes sense. One of the questions I get all the time is, what are you gonna do next? What do you wanna do next? And the truth of it is, I don't really know. I'm totally okay with that. I'm enjoying where I'm at. Some great opportunities have come my way. I'm gonna keep pursuing those. I'm gonna keep my eyes and mind open to other opportunities. I'm really excited. I feel like I have finally found a voice in a way. It's weird because it feels like it's taken 4 years to finally kind of figure out the way that I can do this that feels unique to me. But that's where we're at, and that's exciting. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking around and for your support and for letting me do this is the coolest thing in my life. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next thing. Now you gotta go find some other video to watch while you're at work.